Hey, it's Brian, Joel, and Chase with the Midnight Mechanic, and this is the $500 challenge. This is our third episode. The first episode, you saw us pick it up. The second one, we figured out what it needed.
An engine?
Alright, so we got everything we needed that we showed you guys in the second episode. We picked up an engine, and we actually got it for $200 off the Facebook Marketplace. You may not believe us, but here's our message that shows that we got it for $200. Then we went ahead and we picked up a new clutch and a new flywheel, just because with it out, we're going to go ahead and do that, and then oil and fluids and stuff like that.
So I guess first step is let's get this thing jacked up, get the hood off so we got room to get this thing out of here, get the oil drained, and get this poor sad little engine out of here and start swapping parts over. Alright, before we pull this hood off, something that a lot of people overlook is figuring out how to put it back in the same place. There's a lot of different ways you can mark that hood. I've seen people scratch it with an awl, or you can use a paint marker. In this case, we've got a nice little yellow pencil. So we're going to mark right around the hinges, and that way when we go to put it back on, we'll just line those marks up with the hinges and bolt it right in place.
One thing you got to remember is when you're removing things to go ahead and set your bolts aside so you know which ones go back on where. We just dropped our bolts down here and we lost them, but luckily we have bolt bins that we can get the correct ones out that we need. So we're going to go under and drain all the fluid out of the transmission and pull the drive shaft out. That way it'll be easier to get everything out after that. Okay, so an old trick is when you take the drive shaft out, fluid's going to come out. So what you do is you take a rubber glove and you put it over that so it collects the fluid, it doesn't fall out. Never works though, it always breaks open and spills everywhere, but it's at least worth a shot. So our initial analysis of the engine was correct, because when I took the oil plug out, it dumped out about a quart of water before any oil started coming out. So this engine was toast.
So these T5 transmissions have a really easy shifter to get out. It's only 4 bolts, and we'll take this shifter out of the way so we can have clearance to get the engine and transmission out. Alright, so I think we've got everything disconnected up here. All the wiring harness, motor mounts are loose, exhaust is dropped. We got our chain hooked up, and it's now time to test the tensile strength of any wires or ground straps we forgot to disconnect.
Once you get it about this far out, you realize there's a lot of things you didn't hook up, like ground wires and the speedometer cable, which Joel is underneath right now taking off.
Alright, so you see right here, that is the markings of a Felpro gasket, which is not factory on this guy. So my guess is they put a head gasket on it and found out the cylinder head was probably cracked, because these things are terrible for cracking. When I worked in the machine shop, probably 18 out of 20 that would come in were cracked all to pieces.
So we have it all out. Joel's going ahead and taking the transmission off. That way we can install the new clutch kit and flywheel and go ahead and get it cleaned up and start getting the new engine together and ready to go in there. So So we're removing the old clutch setup to see if we actually need to replace it, because it actually doesn't look bad. So we want to get it off to verify if we can actually reuse it or not.
So we got this clutch and flywheel off. Doesn't look terrible, but you see a lot of hot spots on the flywheel. This side of the clutch disc doesn't look bad. This side of the clutch disc is a little burnt up. And I don't like the fact that all these springs are loose and making some noise, and you can see a lot of hot spots on the pressure plate. So I think we're going to be best to just go ahead and replace that since we have the new parts anyway.
So we're torquing down the flywheel to 65 foot-pounds, where Joel is. When you're doing this, don't forget to put your pilot bushing in.
Make sure when installing the clutch, you put the flywheel side to the flywheel. It won't work the other way. And one thing I see a lot of guys do when they're putting this line-up tool in and getting the pressure plate and clutch bolted together is they'll just stick that line-up tool in and let the weight of the clutch kind of weigh it down. So right before I get that pressure plate tightened up, I like to kind of pull it up just a little bit and make sure that clutch is actually centered and not getting pushed down by the weight of it. Then I'll tighten it up.
Alright, so he's going ahead and torquing down the pressure plate bolts to 18 foot-pounds. We had trouble finding specs online, but we found them. Joel also has some fancy tech specs I'll get him to do in a video later about bolt torque. Don't forget to install your new throwout bearing also. This one is trash. This slides off of that pivot there. So what you do is install the new one on here, and then you can slide it on that pivot and back on.
That's it.
Alright, we got the engine and transmission all bolted together. Mostly Joel did it, but I was a good help. Now we're going to go ahead and get it stuck up in the car. So we have our engine in the car and we're starting to get it all bolted up. The problem that we ran into is that it's a different year engine, so we have to swap the distributor, oil pressure sending unit, some other stuff off the old engine onto the new engine. And also we're missing the injector harness, which is not in the car. It's a little adapter that goes between the two. We don't know where it is. We're going to try and source one tonight, but everything is in the car right now and bolted in. We just got to do all the little bits here and there to get it all together, but there shouldn't be any money left to spend other than that little harness.
These are the kind of things you run into that threaten to blow a $500 budget. These wires are pulled out or corroded or something happened that's not right, and we don't want to put it back together like that because that could cause a short, could kill the engine, could start an electrical fire, all kinds of issues there.
Alright, so we got the engine in the truck, a lot of stuff's bolted together, but we weren't able to get it running tonight because some parts were missing, some wiring was missing, stuff we ordered, but obviously it's not here yet, so you're going to have to wait till the next episode in order to see it running and driving. Hopefully we can keep it under our budget, but right now it is after midnight and we are exhausted.
Yeah, I can't say I don't feel a little bit defeated. I was really hoping we were going to get this thing running tonight, but this is why sticking to a $500 budget is so hard. You get unforeseen curveballs all the time, and right now we're waiting on parts and there's nothing we can do about it.
But they will come in. We'll get our next video of it running. Hopefully we're going to stick under that budget. Right now we're at about $400. The paint, I'm not sure what's going to happen because we don't know if anything else is going to pop up, but video is going to be coming out soon. Check our social media out. We'll have some shorts, we'll have some pictures. Facebook, Instagram at The Midnight Mech, TikTok at The Midnight Mechanic. We'll see you guys next time.